for them?
Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them, you'd never have a deal.
Chat, first thing we're going to do is watch this argue match with Trump and Zelensky, and then we're going to get into the Elon Musk and Trump beef. So give us 1 minute.
You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal? That doesn't work that way. I'm not aligned with Putin. I'm not aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America. And for the good of the world, I'm aligned with the world. And I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred. And I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, you know, him either. So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with the world. I want to get the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe. I want to see if we can get this thing done. You want me to be tough? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough. But you're never going to get a deal that way. So that's the way it goes. All right, one more question.
I will respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the President of the United States' words mattered more than the President of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014.
Is America engaging?
So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now the President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact line?
2015.
2014.
2014 and 2014.
2014.
Yeah. So
I was not here.
Yeah, but
that's exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, yeah, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him, me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire, all of them told me that he will never go. We signed him with gas contract, yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people, and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Count once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly what
this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
Oh, he's going crazy.
You're not in a good
I
position. You don't have the
saying-
cards right now. With us, you start having
not playing
cards. But
cards.
right now, you
I'm
don't.
very
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people.
You think-
You're gambling with World War
What do you-
III.
what do you
You're
speak about?
gambling with
What are you
World
speaking
War
about?
III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country, that's
with all
backed
respect to
you
your
far
country.
more than a lot of people said
very
they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once this
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting, have
today.
you said
Bruh.
thank you? You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of
are you
America
speaking about?
and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you
He's
can...
not speaking loudly. He's not
Yeah.
speaking loudly. Your country is
Can I-
in big
can-
trouble.
can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No.
Can
You've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not
I
winning.
know.
You're not winning this.
I...
You have a damn
We-
good chance of
we are
coming out
staying,
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this
We
cabinet.
gave you, through
I
this
said thank
stupid
you.
president, $350 billion.
You voted
We gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about
if,
West
if
speaking?
you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me-
equipment,
you invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3
okay?
days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I tell you.
Just say thank you.
I said a lot of
except
times
that
thank
there,
you
except
to
that,
American people.
except that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on
I
over
understand,
there.
sir.
I think it's
I
very
understand.
important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the
I'm
cards.
thankful.
You're buried there. Your people are dying.
tell you
You're
again,
running low
I
on
know.
soldiers.
Don't-
Listen,
don't, please,
you're running
Mr.
low on
President.
soldiers. It would be a damn good thing.
Mr.
And then
President.
then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're
I
saying
said-
you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
with guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't
doesn't
with
matter
me.
for you what-
that
what
wasn't
this
with me.
means. It
That was
wasn't
with
with
a
you.
guy named Biden who was not a smart person.
But this
That
is
was
your,
with,
this
that was
is
with
your
Obama.
president. It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry.
Yo, he went crazy. I'm not gonna lie to you, Chad.
Because the attitudes
He
have
went
to
crazy.
change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks peace talks? What do we do then? I understand that it's a heated conversation right now.
What are you
but
saying?
what if
She's asking, what if Russia
Putin
breaks the ceasefire?
for the
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now?
But they have
Okay?
weapons to
What if they
stop
broke it? I don't know. They broke it with Biden because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me.
But all-
Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt where they used him and Russia. Russia. You ever hear of that deal? That was a phony Hunter Biden, Joe Biden scam. Hillary Clinton, Shifty Adam Schiff. It was a Democrat scam. And he had to go through that. And he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war. And he went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it. It came out of Hunter Biden's bathroom. It came out of Hunter Biden's bedroom. It was disgusting. And then they said, oh, the laptop from hell was made by Russia, the 51 agents. The whole thing was a scam. And he had to put up with that. He was being accused of all that stuff. All I can say is this. He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe. Maybe he didn't. I don't know what happened. But he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is, I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And
Literally
your people are
wondering why
very
he
brave.
came. Like he's.
But you're either going to
he
make
doesn't
a
even know what
deal
to say
or
anymore.
we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh? This is going to be great television, I will say that. All right. We'll see what we can do about putting it together. Thank you.
Guys, let's go. Guys, come on, let's go.
We'll see. I don't know.
All right, guys, come on. Please.
Okay, that was about as crazy as I thought it was gonna be. That's insane, dude. Trump will argue. The one thing about Trump is Trump's gonna argue. All right, let's check out this update on Elon and Trump's beef.
We begin tonight with what President Trump calls his big, beautiful bill, which could be headed for a final vote in the Senate after a long day of debating amendments to it and perhaps for some Republican members staring into the abyss. Here's why. Polling consistently shows it is strikingly unpopular with voters. The Congressional Budget Office estimates it adds more than $3 trillion to the national debt and could deprive nearly 12 million Americans of health insurance through Medicaid. That in it now comes with a double dose of existential terror for Republicans on the fence. On the one hand, the president over the weekend managed to drive one opponent of the bill out of seeking another term. On the other, Elon Musk has just weighed in on anyone voting yes, quoting him now. Every member of Congress who campaigned on reducing government spending and then immediately voted for the biggest debt increase in history should hang their head in shame. And if that weren't enough, he adds, and they will lose their primary next year if it is the last thing I do on this earth. Now, given that his Mars mission won't be ready to go for years, that's a lot of primaries. But that's not all. He also reiterated his call from 3 weeks ago for a new political party and says he would start one a day after the bill passes. Rock, meet hard place. North Carolina's Tom Tillis chose The Rock, announcing that he will not seek another term, and he slammed the president on the bill's Medicaid cuts.
What do I tell 663,000 people in 2 years or 3 years? When President Trump breaks his promise by pushing them off of Medicaid because the funding's not there anymore, guys, it is inescapable that this bill in its current form will betray the very promise that Donald J. Trump made in the Oval Office.
So today, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that Senator Tillis is, and these are her words, just wrong. But listen to what the president has been saying on the subject going back a decade and decide for yourself.
Save Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security without cuts. Have to do it. We're going to love and cherish Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. We're not going to do anything with that.
Can you guarantee that Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security will not be touched?
Yeah, I mean, I have said it so many times, you shouldn't be asking me that question.
What happens if it comes to your desk, has the tax cuts, but also cuts to Medicaid? Would you veto that?
No, we're not doing that.
Would
no,
you
we're
veto
not,
that?
I would if they were cutting it, but they're not cutting it. We're not cutting Medicaid. We're not cutting Medicare.
A lot to get to tonight. CNN Chief White House Correspondent Caitlin Collins starts us off. Caitlin, how concerned is the White House about potential cracks in the Republican coalition?
I mean, they're watching all of this and watching Senator Tom Tillis, in that scathing floor speech on Sunday, John. But then, of course, after he announced that he was not going to be seeking re-election, the president was cheerleading that and saying essentially good riddance to Tom Tillis, given they believe he's been a thorn in their side during all of this. And John, obviously, when they look at this overall, and I've been talking to White House officials about what they think is ultimately going to happen here, they do think this will pass. They don't think Republicans are going to defy the president on his signature legislation as big and sweeping sweeping as it is, and with those potential cuts, the question is how long it's going to take to get this through, to get this done. And that's what they've been watching, obviously, very closely at the White House. But with Senator Tillis there, as he's coming out and he's saying that the president is being misinformed by his advisors on what is actually in this bill, and that it's going to make him essentially go back on the promises that you just heard him say there about not interfering with people's Medicaid benefits. I mean, the White House is just flatly rejecting that and arguing that it's wrong. But I think you have to look at, with Tillis's decision yesterday to say he's not going to be seeking re-election, he doesn't really have a lot to lose here in terms of why he is speaking out and why he is saying that, or any incentive to say something that he doesn't actually think could put Republicans in peril. And so that is something they're watching, obviously, closely at the White House. They just essentially want to get this passed. They want to be able to talk about tax cuts and have that as something that they are trumpeting. And you're seeing how the president...
I mean, is that the only thing he's went back on, though? But then again, you got to give him some slack. Some people, I mean, you can't make all your promises. He did try his best in certain categories. There's obviously others that he's more focused in. Medicaid just wasn't, that wasn't a priority. You could tell by the way he was answering, kind of.
Is working on this in terms of writing scathing Truth Social posts of people who are disagreeing with him, and also taking senators out for golfing trips, calling them up on the phone and chatting with them as this slog right now on Capitol Hill is happening with all these amendments that they are trying to get passed. None of them so far have gotten passed.
Well, speaking of people who disagree with him, Elon Musk came out with a new/old threat today, saying he would primary or push to primary any lawmakers who support this bill. That's a split again with the president. How does the White House view this?
Well, it's interesting because a few White House officials were surprised that he came out today and said this, given he had gone largely quiet on his criticisms of the president and of legislation that he's trying to get passed. He had actually come out and said he regretted some of the things he said about Trump when they were sniping back and forth at one another previously. And so now to look at this, what he's saying, I mean, he's going after this and saying Democrats and Republicans are both in the wrong here. A new political party needs to be formed, that all of Washington, he says, is in agreement more than they are in disagreement, and threatening to primary Republicans who vote yes on this. Obviously, John, that is a lot of Republicans who are likely expected to vote yes on this that he's saying that he would be going after. But he's essentially trying to highlight what he says is the criticism of Republicans who complain about big spending in Washington and then are about to vote on this, given the estimates that we've seen, including from
key to the White House that he gave Elon. I wouldn't be beefing with someone I gave a key to my house to.
The budget office this weekend of just how much this is going to add to the deficit.
Yeah, that's a lot of primaries. He better have deep pockets. Caitlin Collins, thank you very much. And of course, you can join Caitlin at the top of the hour for The Source. She's going to speak to Senator Elizabeth Warren tonight. Right now, let's bring in Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut. He's on the Armed Services and Judiciary Committee. Senator, nice to see you. Any prediction on what will happen tonight and what time?
Certainly, I have no prediction on time, and I've just come from the Senate floor. There's a real question about whether they have the votes. They are really struggling because they face this dilemma of making $4.5 trillion in tax cuts, which require them to make slashing cuts in Medicaid, in nutrition programs, in aid to veterans, and student loans, and much, much more, which will have really drastic effects on their constituents. So right now, they're engaged in this horse trading kind of process, providing exemptions or exceptions for parts of populations in certain states, trying to get their approval with earmarks, as they used to be known. And the reason they're struggling is that the American people get it. That's why 2-to-1, they disapprove of this bill. The tax cuts for the billionaires of $4.5 trillion are absolutely necessary. Ballooning national debt by $3.3 trillion, absolutely abhorrent. And so I think that they're going to be struggling for the better part of this evening, maybe into tomorrow morning or later.
What does Senator Tillis, his announcement that he won't seek re-election, what does that tell you?
What it tells me is that any Republican who stands up to Donald Trump will be hit by this torrent of vitriol and vehement threats and intimidation. And so Donald Trump is running this show. He is betraying not only his own promises, but the values and promises that Republicans have made to their constituents. And what Tillis's decision tells me is their positions in many ways have become unsustainable, both politically and morally.
How does it feel to be aligned with Elon Musk tonight, who also opposes this bill? And what difference do you think that his speaking out today will make?
Well, needless to say, Elon Musk and I are not coordinating our public positions, but I think he has it right. And the numbers tell the story, not only the debt that will balloon and the real suffering that people will see in their everyday lives, kids who break their arms on playgrounds, or women who find a lump in their breast and they go to the emergency room, they're uncovered, seniors who are kicked out of nursing homes. The pain is undeniable, and Elon Musk may not feel or see that pain, but top line, he knows the financial markets are going to begin reacting to the levels of debt that will be generated. The economy is at risk. The ramifications and ripple effects throughout the economy will be terrible. And I will just say one more thing, John. You know, the Republicans have corrupted this democratic process. They have, in effect, relied on an accounting trick. It is called baseline budgeting, and the baseline current policy that enables them to disguise a part of the effect on national debt. So this reliance on accounting tricks, on corrupting the reconciliation process, which was designed only for budgeting, they're adding all kinds of policy restrictions, I think will be seen by the American people as fundamentally destructive of the democratic process.
Well, we will see, certainly, maybe see what happens in the Senate sometime tonight. Senator Blumenthal, thank you so much for your time.
Okay, I mean, that touches on the Trump beef with Elon. It really...
Right, some of the things he said about Trump.
It's petty. Neither one of them want to be the one that gives the last word or gets given the last word. I don't even know how to say that. All right, so we have one more thing to jump to, and it's that the House is speaking on the BBB. Let's see what a couple of them have to say. These are committee rules.
Serious negative implications.
Far beyond this.
It's not just her. Oh my goodness.
It's our task to hold this hearing on the bill, and we'll continue until we're given directions that there is no chance that the rule or the bill will pass.
Okay,
Let me see if I can't find one where it's coming out of both ears. Would be wonderful.
They get care and they get the nursing home.
Why is that only coming out of one ear? Hello, somebody?
No chance that the...
Holy jeez, bro. Did anyone have have one that... There we go. Let's try to get to the juicy bits, huh?
We're not fooled by these ludicrous claims. They're not buying into the fear-mongering because they know better. They see the One Big Beautiful Bill Act as a monumental opportunity, an opportunity that will spur even more prosperity within the nation and further propel America into the golden age where it truly belongs. As the Speaker laid out very succinctly, this bill gets Americans back to winning again, and yes, it's been a long time coming. From delivering historic tax relief to reigniting our economic engine, creating massive investments in border security to capturing generational savings and much more. H.R. 1 is the embodiment of the America First agenda. And there are provisions within this legislation that Democrats and their media bedfellows remain noticeably mum about, such as the establishing of savings accounts for newborns, increasing the child tax credit by an additional $500 per child, strengthening paid leave and child care tax credits. This legislation does not have a bowed posture and the frailty of a pipsqueak. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act is the real deal. It's what Americans voted for when they put their trust in President Trump and our Republican majorities in the People's House and the Senate. And here's a sharp dose of reality. A failure to pass this legislation carries with it serious negative implications, not only for hardworking taxpayers, but also the nation. The largest tax increase in American history would be levied against everyday men and women. Millions of jobs would be wiped off the map. Small businesses would be decimated. Wages would vanish. GDP would plummet, and nationwide economic ruin would erupt. Resources to ensure the continued protection of our nation's borders would dry up and turn to dust. Our nation's military would be rendered ill-prepared to confront existing threats to the American homeland, meet the quality of life needs for service members, and keep our adversaries in check. This isn't blatant fear-mongering like what our Democrat colleagues have been doing incessantly for months. These are just facts. President Trump has his pen in hand and is waiting for us to move forward. At this critical juncture, failure is not an option. We're kicking off the final leg of this process here in the Rules Committee today, and we're making good, yet again, on our commitments that we have made to the American people. Let's get this done and keep the wins coming. With that, I yield to the ranking member, Mr. McGovern, for any comments he wishes to make.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. The chairwoman just said that Democrats were going to say that the sky is falling. Well, I'm not going to say the sky is falling. I'm going to say that health care is going to get ripped away from millions of people. I'm going to say that food is going to be taken off the table of many families in this country who rely on SNAP as a way to make sure that they don't go hungry. And I'm going to say that the richest among us are going to get a tax cut. So it has nothing to do with the sky. It has everything to do with what is right and what is wrong. We are here today on a bill that just dropped from the Senate, hot off the press, passed only an hour ago. It's massive. Here it is, nearly 1,000 pages long. And I've got to ask, have any of you read it this time? Because last time we met on this legislation, many of our Republican colleagues had not. And that's no accident. It's by design. It's the direct result of Republican leadership and the White House jamming this bill through Congress with zero transparency. Now, let's be totally honest. This entire process has been legislative malpractice. It's been negotiated in back rooms from the start. In April, conservatives argued for and ultimately got aggressive instructions in the budget for committees to slash spending. I wonder how they feel now that the Senate has violated their hard-fought instructions by over $500 billion. And let's not forget, this bill was jammed through the House in May so quickly that some Republicans said they would have opposed it if they'd known what was actually in it. And now, after another series of backroom negotiations in the Senate, we're getting jammed again, without any chance for the public or independent experts, for that matter, to fully review the bill. And let me make a prediction. If this ugly bill passes, it's going to get a lot uglier when people realize what's in it. And not even Donald Trump's new $300 bottle of cologne will cover the stench. This bill will hurt people in every congressional district in this country. And Republicans are racing to get it passed before the American people can figure out what's in it. There's no real deadline. That we're working against, none. July 4th is just an arbitrary marker that Trump made up. He wants a victory lap on Friday, just weeks after throwing himself a military birthday parade, complete with tanks rolling down Constitution Avenue, one that cost taxpayers tens of millions of dollars. He now wants to have a 4th of July signing ceremony at the White House for this dumpster fire of a bill. We're rushing, not because the country demands it, but because he wants to throw himself yet another party. This isn't policy, it's ego management. So why not slow down?
Ron worked beautifully with Christie and all of the people at Homeland Security and got it done in how many days?
8 days, a new facility was up and running, so.
And is this the model going forward, Mr. President?
It can be. I mean, you don't always have land so beautiful and so secure. You have a lot of bodyguards and a lot of cops that are in the form of alligators. You're not dependent so much. But I wouldn't want to run through the Everglades for long. We'll keep people where they're supposed to be. This is a very important thing. We're setting records at the board. You know, we had no people come through this. Zero, no people. But we're going to keep it that way. So, Ron, you're great.
Well, look, thank you, Mr. President. Thanks for your leadership. The border, you did that quicker than we knew you'd do it, but you did it so quick, which is great. But Biden let in how many millions, and you got to take care of them. And so this is one example of state operating this. The feds are
is dysfunction on steroids. And let me say to my Republican friends, I understand that the Senate just jammed you, but you don't have to be complicit. I get it. I know the Republican leadership and Trump don't want scrutiny. They don't want the American people to understand what's really happening here. This bill is a middle finger to millions of Americans. It isn't just a bad bill, it is the most dangerous piece of legislation in modern history. Dangerous because of the very real damage it will do to real people, sick people, hungry kids, families just scraping by. If this is Republicans' top legislative priority this Congress, it tells us everything about where your values lie. And it's not with working families, not with struggling communities, but with mega corporations, billionaires, and Donald Trump. Madam Chair, I know that once I'm done, you will say, as you did at the beginning, that I'm fear-mongering. That Democrats, nonpartisan scorekeepers, analysts, experts in industry, doctors, children's hospitals, food banks, utilities, organized labor, and journalists, all what they say about this bill, every legitimate critique that we have heard about this bill, you will say that it is hyperbole. But just because you say that, it doesn't make it so. Facts still do matter, and the facts say that this bill is terrible. Now, we know Republicans are about to gut Medicaid and cut Medicare. That's a fact. That's not an opinion. This bill rips health coverage away from roughly 17 million people. Of those, 11.8 million will lose health care due to the Medicaid and Affordable Care Act cuts. Another 5 million will lose their health care because Republicans are allowing premium assistance to expire for those who qualify for help with paying for health insurance on the ACA exchanges. Now, that's not my opinion. That's the conclusion of the CBO and every single other credible budget expert across the country. The Joint Committee on Taxation, Penn-Wharton Budget Model, Yale Budget Lab, Tax Policy Center, and even right-leaning organizations like the Tax Foundation and researchers at the American Enterprise Institute. This bill will devastate rural hospitals, shut down nursing homes, hammer community health centers. It will punish people we ought to protect, the elderly, the disabled, low-income.
Well, I will say that I hope that they're able to rule into something that crafts the bill in a way that it assists everyone, but who knows how it'll happen. Well, that'll be it for my update hour tonight, guys. Appreciate you tuning in. We just had to touch in on some of the new stuff that I saw pop up. We'll try to cover more of this. It's a 7-hour video, so we'll have to do it at a later time. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.